When I was around 10 years old, my nanny and I were walking to a convenience store to pick up some lunch. On our way in, we walked past an unhoused person sitting on the ground by the front door. Inside, I asked my nanny if I could buy him a sandwich. She agreed. We ordered and paid for the sandwich, brought it outside, and gave it to the man. He took the sandwich, thanked us, and we parted ways. When we reached the end of the parking lot, I just happened to look back right at the moment when he opened the sandwich. He took one look at it and threw it directly into the trash can. I don't remember being especially upset, maybe a little confused, and yet that small moment was impactful for me and has stayed with me all these years. As an adult, I've asked myself, did he not like the sandwich? Should I have asked what he wanted? Maybe he was a vegetarian. But more than anything, I want to go back and tell 10-year-old Amanda, trust yourself. Trust your impulse to help. Don't be discouraged. Because what our tradition powerfully affirms is this: we are responsible for responding to suffering, even when we don't have all the facts, even when we can't be sure how our help will be received, and even when we're afraid we might be wrong. We live in a world that trains us to distrust. AI manipulated images, we cannot tell what is real and what is fabricated, memes telling us how to think and what to feel, lifestyle advice, what to wear, what to eat, what vitamins to take, and which chemicals to absolutely avoid. News stories being published in mainstream news only to be revoked and given a half apology for having printed significant errors. There are so many factors contributing to our valid mistrust of what we see and hear. Is it any wonder that so many of us, when we are confronted by another's need, turn our backs, cross the street to avoid being asked, and look the other way when we see an injustice? When we see someone in need, it becomes easier, safer to turn away, to cross the street, to hesitate, to create a story for why it is better not to engage. Judaism urges us to think differently and to act counterculturally. In the second chapter of Pirkei Avot, the lessons of our ancestors, it teaches, Uvamakom she'ein anashim hishtadel liot ish. In a place where there are no people, strive to be a person. It's as easy as that. When others refuse to take initiative or assume responsibility, just be a regular person who takes the initiative upon yourself to do good. A wise member of this congregation told me the following story. He said he was driving on a road at night and there was a huge tree branch in the middle of the road. He swerved around it and then pulled over. His wife asked, "What are you doing?" The man got out, moved the tree branch to the side of the road, and got back in the car. His wife asked again, "What are you thinking? It's dark out. You could have gotten killed." He told me this story as a way of highlighting what it means to take responsibility. He said, I felt that it was my responsibility. That is, I had the ability to respond, and so I did. We have the ability to respond all the time, and yet we don't always act on it. When in this past year have you turned the other way when you had the ability to respond? What made you pause when you might have helped? Were you waiting for certainty, for more information, for someone else to act first, or maybe it just felt difficult? Or you were not sure it was your place? One of our great rabbis, Maimonides, teaches, when a poor person who you don't know says, I am starving, you do not investigate to see if they are deceiving. You feed them immediately. No need for asking questions about their legitimate needs, even if you are being manipulated, even if they look at the sandwich and throw it away. No stepping away to assume the next person will feed them. Our tradition says to just act. This teaching has returned to me for many reasons. It has stayed with me in an unsettling way and has caused me to reflect. Yes, it is a powerful lesson in tzedakah, in giving. And yes, I also think about the many people in Gaza and other places in the world where people are in desperate need of food. And yet, beneath it all, It is a teaching about listening, trusting, and acting, about doing what is right first and foremost without waiting for all the evidence to stack up and make it clear. I want to begin our 25 hours of Yom Kippur with its fasting, enacting death, confessions, self-denial, not only by talking about tzedakah and giving, but really about integrity, about that kol damama daka, the still small voice inside of you that says, you know what is right. And tonight, Kol Nidre night is exactly when we listen for that voice. We confront our lives, our regrets, our cynicism. I don't know about you, but I feel small in the vastness of our broken world. For the sin which we have committed before you by hardening our hearts. Israeli and Palestinian lives, too many to count since the war began 726 days ago. Teachers shielding children from bullets in their classrooms. For the sin which we have committed before you by causeless hatred. Immigrant citizens afraid to go to work or take their kids to the park for fear of being picked up off the street and taken away. 48 hostages being held, starved, and tortured in Gaza. For the sin which we have committed before you inadvertently. Houses burned down in an instant, a summer camp washed away by floodwaters. Every day as I think about how to lead this community, I ask myself, what can we do? We come here tonight not out of fear or shame, but with a sense of humility, that maybe there was something we could have done differently this past year that could have changed the course for someone else, that could have made a more positive impact on the world or changed even one life for the better. We stand here tonight and for the next 25 hours before God and before our entire community, thinking of the ways that we have misstepped, both knowingly and unknowingly. An Italian Kabbalist from 300 years ago, the Ramchal, writes in a classic work of Musar, of self-improvement. He says, nothing here is new. It's the basics we most need to remember. Confronting our errors and apologizing isn't new, but it doesn't mean that it isn't hard to do. Psychologists write that apologizing can feel like diminishing the self. It can make us feel bad. It questions our integrity. And I'm suggesting maybe we should be bothered. Maybe it is good for us on Kol Nidre to feel uncomfortable. And yet, Judaism insists that apologizing and making teshuvah is anything but diminishing. Rather, it is a return to the self, a return to a truer and more authentic self. When we face these difficult pieces of ourselves, the wholeness of who we are, then we can actually acknowledge our burdens and reset. Our tradition insists that we face the truth about the choices we make. Not someday soon or once we have more information, not when we feel more certain, but today, right now. Rabbi Elliot Dorff, a great rabbi and philosopher of our time, and one of my teachers, wrote a book called To Do the Right and the Good. In his book, he dedicates a chapter to substantive justice and the Jewish approach to poverty. Substantive justice focuses on the fairness of the outcome and not just the procedures of law. Before listing the reasons why the Jewish tradition mandates that we take care of the poor and the vulnerable, Rabbi Dorff lists a number of reasons why many of us do not. These reasons fall into two categories: how it affects the person experiencing poverty, will it be demeaning to them or contribute to harmful habits, and how giving affects us. We don't know where the money will go, and that creates discomfort. I admit reading this list felt really hard to read. I felt ashamed. But when I took a step back and read this list, not in a shameful way and more like an intellectual exercise, I realized the sad truth is that I hear our voices. How many times have I walked my children to the other side of the street or questioned what value my help would really add in any given situation? I make excuses all the time. Like a tree branch fallen in the middle of the road, Maimonides doesn't say first assess the situation. He doesn't say wait until you're sure the person deserves your help. He says act, respond, and move. Why? Because when someone is hungry, hesitation is harmful, delay is cruelty, and cynicism, that sneaky little voice that says, maybe this isn't real, maybe I'm being manipulated, the voices inside of ourselves that lead us to needing the work of teshuvah and that led us here tonight. That voice that hardens our heart. This isn't just about sandwiches or branches in the middle of a dark road. It is about every moment when your heart says, do something, and your mind says, maybe not. But sometimes doing the right thing means moving without perfect clarity. It means acting before you've run through the possible excuses not to. Maimonides is teaching us something radical. Trust in yourself, not proof, is the foundation of moral action. That hesitation in the face of someone else's need is often a failure not of intellect, but of courage. Last week on Rosh Hashanah, we read the story of the Akedah, the binding and almost sacrifice of Isaac. Towards the end of Isaac's life, the Torah says that he was old and his eyes were too dim to see. It would be easy to read that verse as is. Eyesight fades as one ages, that is true. But a midrash in Breshit Rabbah tells the story a little bit differently. When Isaac was bound upon the altar and his father was about to slay him, at that very moment the heavens opened, the ministering angels saw it and wept, and their tears flowed and fell upon Isaac's eyes, which thus became dim. Many times over these past few years, I have found myself encouraging us to look at one another. And our beautiful sanctuary allows us to do this in wonderful ways. I have continued to encourage our community to see one another and to be able to engage, even and especially when we may not agree. But perhaps a more compassionate read is that each of our eyes are filled with tears, all of us. So much so that our vision is clouded. We are so focused on our own distress that it is hard to see through the tears to the other who is begging for help. Yom Kippur invites us to wipe away those tears, not by ignoring pain, but by confronting it and then acting with compassion. And our tradition also invites us to practice self-denial with a fast. In the Haftarah that we will read tomorrow, Isaiah reminds us that the fast alone is not enough. God says, "Is such the fast I desire, a day for people to starve their bodies? Is it bowing the head like a bulrush and lying in sackcloth and ashes? Do you call that a fast, a day when God is favorable? No. This is the fast I desire, to unlock the fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. It is to share your bread with the hungry and take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, to clothe them and not to ignore your own kin. Then shall your light burst through the dawn and your healing spring up quickly." Like the text from Maimonides, the prophet Isaiah brings to light the essence of this day. You can fast a very meaningful fast, but on Friday, when we wake up ready to engage with the world again, if we don't feed the hungry, if we turn away from doing good, if we don't trust that it is our responsibility to heal the world, then we have missed the point. What we do in here matters, but only if it changes what we do out there. Judaism asks us to live with contradiction, to break a glass at a wedding, to show brokenness in the midst of joy, to see suffering and still believe in the possibility of healing. Similarly, over these past few years, our hearts and minds have been pulled in so many directions, calling us to seek truth and to be steadfast in our beliefs, while also striving to lead a life of compassion. And that is why this day, Yom Kippur, is so powerful, because it brings us to the edge of ourselves and asks us, will you act, even if you're not sure, even if your help is rejected, even if you've gotten it wrong before? If there has been a moment this year when you have reached out for help and you felt that I hesitated or did not act quickly enough, I am sorry. If you believe that this community has fallen short in the way that we have responded, acted, or navigated in the impossible challenges of the world today, I am sorry. If you have felt personally let down or hurt by me or by another member of this community, I am sorry too. Maybe this year, when someone asks for help, the still small voice will speak louder than doubts and justifications. What would it look like to reorient ourselves to say that in this coming year, I am going to trust more? This year, I am going to listen more clearly to that still small voice that leads us to lessen someone's suffering. Because Judaism doesn't ask us to get it perfectly. In fact, Judaism assumes we won't. This is teshuvah. We are asked to try again, to return, to start the work even if we can't finish it. Our Talmud teaches to save one life is to save an entire world. Think of just how many worlds we have the capacity to change. So let us try this year to listen, to trust, and to always just be a person. Gemar Chatima Tova. May we all be sealed in a good and healthy year.